Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Izzy, and this is the Redzone Report right here on the Built in Buffalo YouTube, Facebook, and X channels. This is my mock draft. I'm here to give you guys what I think is going to happen in the draft for the entire NFL. So, definitely going to get some of these wrong, right? No one ever gets these entirely right. Let's have fun with it, you know? The draft is coming in a few short weeks. Let's talk about it. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host again, Izzy, and this is the Redzone Report, and this is Izzy's mock draft. So we're here to talk about the NFL draft and to actually conduct an entire NFL mock draft. So here we go. I see the comments already. Sandra L. King in the building on Facebook and on YouTube. That is dedication. Good evening. What's up, Sandra? Welcome to the show. Man, Jacob is Hey, man. Appreciate you, Jacob. Love you much. Hope everything's going well for you. And we're going to go ahead and talk about these draft picks. Mostly in the first round, we'll do more descriptive, of these players. But I will check back in on the StreamYard side to see your comments from time to time. So if I don't get your comments right away, please do not take offense. But here we are. 7 rounds, all teams, using the consensus big board. Here we go. So now the Raiders are on the clock. And we're going to go ahead and start the draft. So, Raiders on the clock. I don't think anybody believes that the Raiders are going to be trading out. They have pick 1, 36, 67, 102, 117, 134, and a slew of other picks. And I believe everybody knows that it's going to be quarterback Fernando Mendoza out of the University of Indiana, national champion. And I believe he won the Heisman, but I'm not positive. But Fernando Mendoza, outstanding young player, quite physically gifted, but he's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. He's not the most powerful arm, but he's pretty good in all those departments. Fernando Mendoza is a player that really strikes me as a guy who can be a franchise quarterback just because of the way he works upstairs, the mind on that kid, and the discipline he tends to display. Now, next up on the draft is the Buffalo Bills division rival, New York Jets. And I say division rival, because they're in our division. They're not really a rival to us. We tend to beat them all the time, and they're not very good. We're a playoff team every year and a Super Bowl contender the last 5-6 years. And the Jets, they've contended for the first overall pick for, the last decade. So it's been rough for the Jets. I don't want to pick on them too much because there might be some Jets fans that watch. And, I don't like the Jets. And it's my personal belief that any team whose name ends in Ets is pretty sad. The Nets, Jets, and Mets. But it's neither here nor there. The New York Jets, they need a lot of stuff, right? They need edge rusher. They need linebacker. They need wide receivers. They need quarterback. They need a lot of stuff. And on the board right here, there are 2 players at the top of the board that make sense. Linebacker Arvell Reese from Ohio State, which a lot of people are classifying as an edge rusher. I think he's going to be better as an off-ball linebacker. This is a little high to pick an off-ball linebacker, but Arvell Reese is that damn good. And his teammate also, Sonny Styles, also very good. But Arvell Reese is a hard-to-miss prospect, but edge rusher David Bailey plays the more valuable position at edge rusher. And if you remember, their head coach came from the Detroit Lions, where they invested heavily on the defensive line, especially the edge, and Aiden Hutchinson. And he was able to deploy Aiden Hutchinson, even though he's a DB's guy. Right? Aaron Glenn is a defensive backs guy. He was a NFL cornerback, a really, really good one for the Jets. He was drafted by the Jets. And he was really good when he played. Now he's a pretty good defensive coach. Last year was sad for the Jets. Obviously, they're picking number 2 overall for a reason. But you start building your team in the trenches, and I believe that they're going to go with edge rusher David Bailey out of Texas Tech. Now, David Bailey, 6'3", 250 pounds. He is a senior, and he is 22 and a half years old. PFF has no analysis for anybody because they just got sold, so no worries here. We are going for the New York Jets. They're going to take David Bailey, the best player at the highest valued position and a position of need. There it is. Now, the Arizona Cardinals need a lot. They need O-line. They need quarterback. They need D-line. They need linebacker. They need a lot. And there are 2 linebackers on the board that are worth this pick, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. And Sonny Styles is a converted safety. And the Cardinals, I think, may be weary because they've seen this movie before. I forget who it was that they took, but they took a guy who was a safety. He was 236 pounds. And he just never panned out in the NFL. He's been okay. He's bounced around. I forget his name. So I think Sonny Styles is going to be good in the NFL. So I don't personally hold this to him, but I think that they're going to go with the consensus best linebacker on the board in Arvell Reese. Boom. To the Arizona Cardinals. Very good player, very instinctive, has a nose for the ball, good in coverage, just an all-around good player, Arvell Reese. Now, next guy on the board, top on the board, is Jeremiah Love, right? Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame, is a special running back. He is 6 foot, 214 pounds, so he's got some mass to him, right? He's about the same size as our boy Ty Johnson, right? But way more dynamic. They need that. But they also need offensive line. They need guard. They need center. The tackles they should be okay at, but the interior of the offensive line, they really, really, really struggled this past year. And the best offensive lineman on the board is a tackle. And then there's a line of players that are just not interior offensive linemen. The first one is at 16 in Big Ione. So what are they going to do? They're probably going to take either the best player available or the best player at a position of need available. And it's a tough one, but I think that they're going to go edge rusher here, just like the Cardinals, and build that defensive line so they can attack opposing teams. They also have picks 35, 66, 101, 144, and 140 or 142. And so for them, I believe it's going to be Reuben Bain Jr. out of the University of Miami. The first player not at the top of the board selected. Now, the Giants is another interesting spot here, right? Because they need safety, they need linebacker, they need guard, they need wide receiver. Their guy, freaking Malik Neighbors, went down with a torn ACL. He's probably not going to be ready till midseason. He's a guy that is elite when he's on the field. He was building up to it, at least, if he was not elite yet. And the Giants could use another running mate, and they did lose Wan'Dale Robinson in this year's free agency. So they're down their slot guy, and they're not really probably looking for a slot guy like that. They're probably looking for another guy to be on the outside, but they may find another slot guy later on. I think that Carnell Tate is an option here. Also, Caleb Downs is a freaking beast, and the Giants, their head coach is Jim Harbaugh, and the two things he has really valued in his teams is having a really good running back. He's always had one. He had Ray Rice before the whole Ray Rice incident, and then he had a slew of other guys who were pretty good, and then he went and got Derrick Henry, and he's just J.K. Dobbins. He's had a list of guys, and they all just kind of got hurt a lot, and now they have Cam Scatterbu, who was looking like a franchise running back, but he tore his ACL. He's a madman out there. So I believe on the offensive side of the ball is really, really going to be looking, whether it be Jeremiah Love at running back or Carnell Tate at wide receiver. And you have a young quarterback in Jackson Dart. And I think the biggest help to him is somebody who can do a lot of things for you. And I think that's Jeremiah Love. So the Giants here take Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. You have Cam Scatterboo when he returns to be that goal line short yardage guy. And then you have Jeremiah Love to, eat, downs 1 and 2. And then you have your third down back in Cam Scatterboo. Unless it's a long distance, down a distance, then you might roll with Jeremiah Love. But I don't think you have Cam Scatterboo stopping you from getting an elite level running back like Jeremiah Love. He's a beast. Both those Notre Dame running backs are beasts. So now we have the Browns on the board, and I think this is an easy one for them. They need offensive tackle. They need to be able to, protect whoever their quarterback's going to be. I think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders, but it could be Deshaun Watson. Dylan Gabriel might, give them a run for their money. They have 3 quarterbacks on the roster right now that are probably going to be battling it out. I don't have very much faith in Deshaun Watson. He has not looked the same since that last really elite year he had with the Texans. And it's been downhill from there since all of the accusations and all that crap, whatnot. I don't want to talk about all that here on the show because we try to keep things pretty clean around here. But I think that Francis Mauigoa is the guy for the Cleveland Browns. Left tackle, you put him in there, he starts for you, and then you got yourself a dog. From the University of Miami to the Cleveland Browns, Francis Mauigoa, offensive tackle. Now, looking at you guys' comments, we've got Christopher Roseborough back in the building. Good evening, Izzy. Go Bills. Good evening, my friend. John Robert, Malachi Lawrence. We'll talk about him later. John Robert. Mr. Roseborough, I didn't show your comment. There we go. Federico Garza, trade first 2026 and 2027 to up to a pick, really good wide receiver, and trade Coleman or Palmer for a second to go grab Jacob Rodriguez. We're not getting a second for Keon Coleman or Joshua Palmer. It's not going to happen. They don't have that type of value. And trading back for a first-round pick next year. Next year's draft's going to be crazy stacked. And we don't know how this team is really going to look, especially on defense. We don't know if the offense is going to be able to carry this defense if this defense doesn't work out this year. Like this is the first year with these guys trying to be in this defense. A lot of these guys you're not going to be able to get rid of until after next year. So I'm probably keeping our first-round pick. I might move back, but there are good wide receivers throughout this draft. And the Bills going to get freaking DJ Moore, I think, kind of sealed the fate on that. And so I'm not trying to go into this with my heart. I'm trying to go into this with my brain. So this isn't really just about the Bills, though. This is about all the teams in the draft. Love is a good pick. Kim Boomhauer, my man. Welcome back to the show. All right. Now, getting back to the draft, we have the Washington Commanders left on the board. And they have a slew of good players here staring them in the face. The running back just went off the board. Wide receiver Carnell Tate is right there. They do have Scary Terry from Ohio State also on the team. And I think he would welcome with open arms another Ohio State wide receiver. They also do need safety, and Caleb Downs is right here. They do need defensive line as well, and there's not really anybody here for them at this point that's worth this pick. They could trade back, but they have Carnell Tate sitting right here, staring them in the face. And so they take wide receiver Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. That is the best pick that they could get. Now, the Saints are a team that needs a lot: defensive line, linebacker, wide receiver. They shipped off their speedster at wide receiver, and then their linebacker, who's been there forever, Demario Davis, no longer on the team. I don't remember if Cam Jordan's still on the team or not, but right now they can replace Demario Davis with a blue chip prospect at linebacker in Sonny Styles, and that's exactly what they do. The Kansas City Chiefs, the bane of our existence, the team that we can't stand the most, just traded away Trent McDuffie to the Rams. So they have a wide opening at corner, and he was a great slot corner, and then he moved to the outside, and with his contract, they needed to move on to make money. So they're going to get younger and cheaper at that position at some point in this draft, and I think it's right now with the best corner in the draft, Mansour Delane, standing here. Boom. Mansfield Delane is now a Kansas City Chief. Now we have the Cincinnati Bengals on the board, and one of their former starting safeties is now Buffalo Bill, and Geno Stone is gone, so the Bengals fans will tell you they weren't really fans of him anyway. So you have Caleb Downs on the board. You have offensive tackle Monroe Freeling, which, in my opinion, they need offensive line a lot. Mekhi Lemons here. They shouldn't be looking at wide receiver like that. They should be looking for safety, D-line, and interior offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. Vega Maminoa's here, and Caleb Downs are the two players that stick out the most to me. And so the best player on the board, best player available, is Caleb Downs, and he is now a Cincinnati Bengal. Now the Dolphins are on the board, and they need everything. Well, this says needs wide receiver, guard, defensive back. They need everything. Mekhi Lemons sitting here, staring them in the face. The Dolphins have new management, so I don't know how smart or dumb they are, but Mekhi Lemons is an outstanding slot receiver who can also play on the outside. They do need corners. They've needed corners for years, and they have not addressed the corner position. Jamal McCoy is sitting right here, staring me in the face. He was injured this past year, so he didn't play, but he should be good to go. Also, this year they know they're not going to be doing anything. They're not going to be making any noise. They need a quarterback. They need everything. So they're going to take a shot at cornerback, Jamad McCoy from the University of Tennessee at pick 11. Cowboys are on the board. Their offensive line is straight. They're solid on the O-line. They can use a linebacker, they can use a corner, and they can use a defensive lineman. Specifically, I think on the outside, because they do have Kenny Clark, and they do have, I believe they still have Kenny Clark, and they do have Quinnen Williams. And so when you have stout interior defensive line like that, you're not worried about getting another interior offensive lineman. They're good there, right? They do still have Kenny Clark, so they have two really good prospects on the inside there. Two really good veteran players. So the Cowboys could look out to wide receiver, like if they're looking to trade away, not CeeDee Lamb, but George Pickens. Maybe they got him on the franchise tag, so they could dangle him for a pick. They also have Jordan Tyson here, wide receiver. They have tackles here, but their tackles on their team are pretty solid. We stroll down the board here. It's not really a defensive back here for them, but defensive lineman, edge rusher, Akeem Mesidor staring at me in the face. I do like him. And you put him next to those two big fat bastards in the middle, and you could have some magic. I think, honestly, the Cowboys might trade out of this pick. Let's see who's looking to trade up. So, the Jets might be looking to trade up. The Bills are on here to trade up. Let's see what it'll take for the Bills to trade up. Just for gigs. So the Bills give up 26, move up to 12. And the Bills also give up 91 to 12. It's kind of steep. 126. We give up a 2 next year. Okay. So the Bills give up their 1 next year, or this year, and their 2 next year to move to 12. This offer will likely be accepted. Let me see something real quick. %59 chance. Okay, so we don't want to go that far. The 2 next year. And we throw in Keon Coleman. 70% chance. I want to make it as fair as possible. So we're giving them our 1 this year, our 2 next year, and wide receiver Keon Coleman to move up. The Buffalo Bills are now on the board. And we're looking to draft a player. And we're looking at wide receivers. We have Jordan Tyson here. The Bills could go safety with Dylan Theinman. They could go Caden Proctor. They could go Omar Cooper Jr. They just jumped ahead very far. They could go tackle. Could go guard with Vega Ione. But I know what everybody here wants. Everybody here wants the Buffalo Bills to draft a wide receiver. And I like Jordan Tyson, but the dude gets hurt a lot. I mean, a lot. And Joe Brady specifically said that he believes that Khalil Shakir can play inside and out. We all know that Mekhi Lemon can play inside and out. And we also know Joshua Palmer and DJ Moore can also play inside and out. When you have 4 dudes who can do everything, that offense will confuse defenses like it's nobody's business. And so at 12, the Buffalo Bills will draft wide receiver Mekhi Lemon, USC. Boom. Let's see what the chat thinks about that. Love is a good pick. Oh, so we haven't had anybody say anything in chat yet. All right. Not since the last time I checked on you guys. So in this scenario, the Buffalo Bills have moved up with Dallas on a fair trade. Keon Coleman, a second next year, first this year. And go get a wide receiver, versatile wide receiver, Mekhi Lemon. Next on the clock is the LA Rams, who may have been looking at a wide receiver. So the Bills jumped the Rams to go get the guy. Rams on the board, they need offensive tackle like it's nobody's business. There's 2 staring them right in the face, Monroe Freeling out of Georgia and Spencer Fano out of Utah. Now, Monroe Freeling is ranked 1 spot higher. I disagree. I think Spencer Fano is the better tackle out of Utah. I know that Monroe Freeling played in the SEC, and he's kind of become a darling. But I think that the Rams are going to take the tackle closest to home, who is going to be more comfortable and I believe is the better player in Spencer Fano. Spencer Fano, you are now an LA Ram. Now here come the Baltimore Ravens. Now the Ravens, historically, Eric DeCosta, their GM, who's still in place even though John Harbaugh lost his job, the Baltimore Ravens have historically picked wide receivers in the first round. They just have. The Flowers, Bateman, they're not scared to take wide receivers in the first round, even if they have injury concerns. They somehow believe that they can fix them. They also have a guard here, and they did lose their center and a guard, I believe. So if you're going to lose 2 offensive linemen, starters, and need to replace one of them, and you have a guard like this staring you in the face, it's probably the way to go. It's probably the way to go. So I think the Ravens here, I think Eric DeCosta is going to stray away from that because they did re-sign Rashad Bateman and draft Penn State guard Vega Ione. I'm going to give his first name a shot. Olaiba Vega. I said it very Spanish. Olaiba Vega Ione from the University of Penn State, or Penn State University. So Olaiba Vega, you are now Baltimore Raven. Now the Buccaneers are now on the clock. They have needed tackle, guard, edge rusher, and linebacker. Believe that longtime linebacker there has retired. What's his name? Levante. Levante David. I believe he retired. Yep, he retired. So linebacker is absolutely positively a need for them. And why not see if you can get one here? There's not really one sticking out. Right? There's an edge rusher sticking out right here in Keldrick Falk and Akeem Mesidor. They also need linebacker. The next nearest one of those is way down the board. Way down the board at CJ Allen. This is way too rich for him. And linebacker is not a premium pick. Tight end sticking out right here. Kenyon Sadiq, the best tight end in this draft. Very, very good athlete. But also edge rusher, Akeem Mesidor, and Keldrick Falk. And I think that they invested in Baker Mayfield, who has, done justice in their investment. But he needs more weapons. And they just lost Mike Evans. He's gone. They did draft Egbuka last year, but they're going to need some help. I like Cade Otton, but to me, he's a tight end too. He's a Dawson Knox. He's not a Tyler Warren. He's not a Kincaid when Kincaid's healthy. He's not that. Kenyon Sadiq is. So right here, the Buccaneers are going to draft Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. Now the Jets are back on the board. And the Jets can use offensive line. They can use wide receiver. They can use cornerback, safety. Their previous pick was David Bailey, edge rusher. So they already got one edge rusher. They could double up and go get in the key Matador, Kedrick Fault. They could do that. They could go wide receiver here and select Jordan Tyson. Are there any corners on the board? Avion Terrell wouldn't be too rich for my blood there. I think that he would be a good fit there in the system of Aaron Glenn. And so I'm going to go ahead and give him to the New York Jets. The New York Jets are selecting cornerback Avion Terrell out of Clemson. Ooh, Omar Cooper Jr. is there. Ooh, a little yin to the yang of Garrett Wilson. That's tempting. And then if they're going to draft a quarterback, you want your quarterback to have as much help as possible. Nope, they're going to take Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver. Boom. The Lions are on the board, and they need a left tackle. And the talk has been that they might think of moving Penei Sewell from right tackle, where he's a all-pro, Pro Bowl monster of a beast offensive tackle. If you draft Monroe Freeling right here, you don't have to do that. You protect Jared Goff, and you secure lanes for Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm running this one to the podium from the Detroit Lions, and Monroe Freeling is still here. Boom. Give me that. Now, the Minnesota Vikings on the board, they need running back, center, defensive line, and safety. And they got a real old safety in Harrison Smith. He's got to be like 37 years old. I believe Harrison Smith is like 37 years old. Smith, boom. 37 years old. I'm right on the money. He just turned 37 in February. So he's 37. He's been an all-out beast for them his entire career. Why not get his, successor? I've seen him drafted to them a lot in mock drafts. Their defensive line is pretty solid, actually. I don't know why they say they need a defensive line, but they're pretty good on the D line. Safety would be the obvious pick of the guys here at the top. So, yeah, Dylan Theinman, you are now a Minnesota Viking. Dylan Theinman's an awesome player, dude. He ran like a 4.33 at the combine. He's just athletically gifted, fast as all can be. Like he's a damn dog, and I like that. I like that. Now we have the Carolina Panthers on the board, and they need a tight end. Kenny Sadiq's off the board. They need a center. Ain't no centers here. They need defensive linemen. There's some defensive edge rushers here. Keldrick Falk. There's cornerbacks here. They're pretty solid at corner. There's some safeties here. They don't really need safety. Peter Woods is here. Solid, defensive tackle. He's a 3-tech out of Clemson. Really good player. Clemson played like crap, but they had some real prospects. As you can see, Avion Terrell, Peter Woods, TJ Parker. Their defensive players were just outstanding. But the Xavier Legette pick is kind of Keon Coleman. It's just not really going that great. And if I remember correctly, the kid that they drafted out of Holy Cross is not in town anymore. I could be wrong. Let me see. Jalen Coker. No, he's still there. Okay. He's still there. He started showing some promise. But you got a guy like Jordan Tyson there. I can see the slide happening. I could also see the Panthers sliding back a couple picks, maybe. Who's interested? The Dolphins are interested at 30, and the Commanders at 71. Yeah, I don't think they moved that far back. So let's see what the Dolphins got for them. So if they trade back to 30, 19, and 30, Dolphins are probably going to have to give up 87. Okay. So they won't accept that one. So they basically do the same thing we did. Or yep. Okay, so they gave up a 3 next year, and their first this year. They're not moving up as far as we did. We went from 26 to 12. So that's a thing. This is only 11 picks. We moved up 14 and closer to the top 10. So a third to get this done for the Dolphins. They move up. And the Dolphins now can address their offensive side of the ball with a receiver like Jordan Tyson. They could go edge rusher, which they really don't need. Or they can go cornerback. And I think that Avion Terrell here for the Dolphins is the move. So the Dolphins have taken Avion Terrell. What was their first pick? And Jermon McCoy. So they've gotten 2 cornerbacks, 2 blue chippers to take over because their cornerback room stinks. Stinks. So now they're showing up their defense from the backside. The Dallas Cowboys are now on the board, and they need defensive line, linebacker, and cornerback. And now is not too soon to go and get C.J. Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. Dude's a beast. Sideline to sideline. He's not so dynamic that where he's like a top guy like Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, but dude's a dog. Dude's a dog. Steelers are on the board. They need quarterback, running back, guard, and tackle. Wow, they need offense like it's nobody's business. Like it's nobody's business. And Caden Proctor's sitting right here, and the value is exactly what it needs to be. And they got to protect whoever that quarterback's going to be. If it's going to be Aaron Rodgers and you don't address the offensive line, he might say, you know what? I'm going home. Going home. They have DJ Metcalf. They could add Jordan Tyson here. Jordan Tyson is an option. But I don't know if that's going to be something they want to do. Injury history. But it's awfully tempting. It's awfully tempting. But I think they're going to shore up that offensive line. Caden Proctor off the board to the Steelers. We now have the Chargers on the board, and this is where the slide for Jordan Tyson stops. They have Ladd McConkey. They have Quentin Johnston, and they could use another outside guy so that way Ladd McConkey can live in the slot. Jordan Tyson is now an LA Charger. Eagles on the board. They need wide receiver, tackle, edge rusher. And there's 2 edge rushers sitting right here. Now, if I remember correctly, Akeem Ezra was like 25 years old. Yeah, he's 25 years old. Keldrick Falk, to me, is just as good. 6'6", 285, big edge rusher. The Eagles run a 3-4, though. They run a 3-4. Both guys same size, so maybe we wait on the edge. There's a safety right here in Emmanuel McNeil Warren who would help the back end. You know, you already have some studs at corner and Cooper DeJean, and then I always forget this guy's name. He's out of Toledo. Wiggins. Nate Wiggins. Is it Nate Wiggins? Quinyon Mitchell. There we go. So Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean beasts at corner. They could look to shore up that secondary a little bit more now and then wait on edge rushers, maybe one that fits their scheme a little bit more because they do like those bendy guys that we're going to be looking for too, so that's competition for us. So they're going to take safety. Ooh, they need a tackle. Caleb Lomu's here. Tackle's a much more valued position. They have not picked anybody yet, so they're going to tackle. Caleb Lomu, Utah. Now, the Cleveland Browns, with their second pick, the first pick was Francis Maui-Noah. They need a quarterback. According to PFF, I don't think that they do. I think that they're going to wait on that, especially since next year's draft's going to be good. You give Shedeur Sanders a year to prove it. And if not, then you sucked again, and you'll be in position to draft one next year when there are really some studs in the draft. Wide receiver, guard, and tackle. I think that they might actually be looking for another edge rusher to team up with Garrett Wilson. You have Akeem Ezra and Keldrick Falk sitting right here. I think that they want a nice, mature player to go in there and help them out. At 24 and Akeem Mesidor, you are now a Cleveland Brown. That bill straight up is unrealistic. I only went with what the PFF board allowed. It was a second-round pick next year, first-round pick this year, and Keon Coleman. Is it unrealistic? Most likely. Did it happen? Yes, it did. Maybe next week I'll do one with no trades, just straight up. We now have the Chicago Bears on the board. They need a center, defensive lineman, and safety. McNeil Warren's right here. They lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Bills this offseason. So here we go to the Bears. Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Bada boom. Cowboys are back on the clock. It says they need D-line, linebacker, and corner. They already took a linebacker. And there are no corners here. But there's a D lineman. Let me see something. Yep. Okay. So if the Cowboys run a 3-4, they have Kenny Clark. They have freaking what's his name? Quentin Williams. Let me see. Let me see. So Zaraku, Kenny Clark, Quentin Williams. Yeah, they could use another guy. On their edges, they have Dante Fowler Jr. and Ezaraku. I think both those guys are replaceable. So I don't think that's going to stop the Dallas Cowboys from going and getting an edge rusher like Keldrick Clark or a defensive lineman like Peter Woods. They do have an open spot. So Peter Woods, you're now a Dallas Cowboy. And that defensive line, that three-man front with Peter Woods, Quentin Williams, and Kenny Clark, nasty. That's nasty. I hate the Cowboys, but it is what it is. Now the Niners are here. They need a guard. They need a tackle. And they need an edge rusher. They have a tackle right here in Blake Miller. They have an edge rusher here who's rated far higher. Like 8 spots in the first round. This guy right here, Blake Miller, could be rated as a second round, talent with a first round designation because of where he's at. So the Niners needing guard, tackle, edge. Their next pick is at 58. Man, I don't know if they need a tackle though. Not a left tackle because they still have old boy. So they're gonna take the edge rusher here. Keldrick Clark, San Francisco 49ers, shoring up that defensive line. The Houston Texans, they solidified their defensive end. So they have was it Will McDonald the fourth and Daniil Hunter, and they just re-signed Daniil Hunter to 2 more years. TJ Parker would be tempting here, but they need running back, center, guard, and defensive line. And so they could also use a wide receiver, honestly. Like, let me see. They have Tank Dell, but he's been hurt a bunch. They have freaking Nico Collins, but he's been hurt a bunch. Let's see. Five position wide receiver. They have Jared Wayne. Never heard of him. Justin Watson. Jalen Noel. They drafted last year. Josh Kelly. Xavier Hutchinson. Forgot they drafted him. Jaden Higgins. Okay, so they got both those Ohio State guys. Tank Dell. You know what? No, they don't need a wide receiver. They don't. Guard, center, running back. Let's see who's here at running back. Jadarian Price is a little rich for him. Maybe they look to trade back. Raiders are looking to trade up in the draft. For whom? What do the Raiders need? Let's go up to number one pick. Quarterback, wide receiver. Oh, I know exactly who they would trade up for. So Raiders would move up 8 slots, 36 to 28, and they would give up give up 102 to move up with the Texans. Offer it up. Texans move back. Raiders are in. And the Raiders are here to draft wide receiver Casey Concepcion. No brainer. Give up a third. Go get the receiver. Go get him. That's just a smart way to conduct business. Kansas City Chiefs on the board. Wide receiver, edge. They got a corner earlier. Defensive back. They got the corner earlier, Master Delane. They need a wide receiver and an edge, and TJ Parker is sitting right here. Bada boom. TJ Parker, dynamic edge rusher from Clemson. Panthers back on the board. Need a wide receiver, tight end, center, and defensive lineman. Their previous pick was nothing. They moved back, I guess. Yep, I moved them back. So wide receiver, tight end, center, defensive line, and they have Caden McDonald sitting here. That's their guy. Caden McDonald goes to the Panthers. Patriots on the clock. They can use another tackle, and Blake Miller sitting here. They could also use a defensive lineman and a linebacker. Cassius Howell's here for an edge rusher. Cornerback Colton Hood is here. Really good corner. They have Max Ihea Nachor. Okay. Who's standing right there? Blake Miller, best tackle on the board out of Clemson. Patriots go and shore up their offensive line to protect Drake May, who was running for his life in the Super Bowl and in the AFC Championship game. Arguably, they only won the AFC Championship game because Bogus got hurt, but, that's speculation, so neither here nor there. And now we have the Seattle Seahawks on the board. They lost Boye Mafe, so they do have a need at edge rusher. They also need a defensive back, and Colton Hood's here, and so is Cassius Howell. So it's really about who they like more, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M with the short arms, or Colton Hood, the defensive back out of Tennessee. Colton Hood at corner is 6'1", 195, so prototypical size. Cassius Howell is 6'2", 248. How big was Boye Mafe? Let's see if they get this comparison. Because even though Cassius Howell's got small arms, he's really, really good at getting around people. 261, 6'4". Howell was 6'2", 248, so a bit smaller. That's a toughie. They still have Cooper Kupp. They signed Jackson Smith and Jigba to a long-term deal. It's too early for a running back right now. They could trade back. There's 9 teams that want to trade back for that fifth-year option. The Giants are one of them. What would they want? What would the Giants want? They took the running back. They could come back up for a wide receiver, maybe. Wide receiver, guard, linebacker, safety. Wide receiver. So it would only be for Denzel Boston, which wouldn't be stupid at all. That'd be smart. The Seahawks would move back to 37, so 37 for 32. And the Giants wouldn't have to give up too much, probably like 186. It's lopsided. I feel like you said that too. 95%. So you give up a third to move back up into the first from the second. Ooh. I don't know if I do that from the Giants. Definitely give up 145. And maybe a seventh next year, or that fifth-year option tax. Okay, sixth next year. So you give up a fourth to move back up 5 slots, and then a sixth next year. Yeah, okay. Accepted. Giants, you're on the board. The Giants take wide receiver Denzel Boston from University of Washington. Now the Jets are on the clock with their first pick. They took David Bailey. With their second pick, they took Omar Cooper. They needed an edge rusher. They got an edge rusher. They needed a wide receiver. They got a wide receiver. They need a quarterback and they need a cornerback. Colton Hood and Ty Simpson are both here. There was a massive gap between Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. Massive gap in their rating and their talent. Ty Simpson's a good quarterback. He is probably a second-round grade. Doesn't mean he can't be great in the NFL. Like, Tom Brady was a 6th-round grade. Not to compare him to Tom Brady. It's not the same. 6 other quarterbacks went before Tom Brady. Ty Simpson could be one of those 6 other quarterbacks that goes before Tom Brady. Mendoza could be trash, and some dude who goes later on the board, could be the guy. Ty Simpson, to me, kind of screams Mac Jones. A little more athletic. A little less accurate, but very similar size, measurables. Man, this is tough. I think they go quarterback here. So first pick, second round, the Jets take quarterback Ty Simpson out of Alabama. And he would be the backup to Geno Smith. Geno would be their bridge quarterback. Ty Simpson probably sits for a year behind Geno unless he's forced into play due to injury, which Geno's not really been an injury guy. He'll throw an interception before he lets you hit him. Cardinals on the board. They need a quarterback. They need a tackle. They need defensive line and linebacker. Their first pick was Arvell Reese, so they need a defensive lineman and a tackle. The tackle sitting right here. There's a defensive lineman, Caleb Beck, sitting right there. Which do they want to do more? Do you want to protect your quarterback, or do you want to, get at the defensive, at the, get at the opposing team's offense? I say you establish yourself with an offensive line because you're not going to get a quarterback in the future. In this draft, most likely. Next year, you're probably going to be asked again. And so with that, you're probably going to want to get that offensive line before you get that quarterback. So tackle Max Iheanacho out of Arizona State to the Cardinals. On the clock, we have the Tennessee Titans. Their first overall pick was Ruben Bain. They need a running back. They need a center. They need a guard. They need a linebacker. So who's sitting here at linebacker or guard? They have Jacob Rodriguez sitting here. You see what comments we have here. Roll call's kind of still up. Man. They took the edge rusher. They need interior O-line help. Emmanuel Pregnon is here. It's tempting to double up on edge rushers, but they need so much. I think they'll go with Emmanuel Pregnon, guard, protect your quarterback, and open up rushing lanes for whoever your running back's going to be. Houston Texans on the board. And they needed a guard, and the guard's gone. They need defensive line, apparently. And there's one sitting here in Caleb Banks, so they will take Caleb Banks out of Florida. Seattle Seahawks on the board. They didn't take anybody. They need an edge rusher. Cassius Howell still sitting here on the board. So they're going to take Cassius Howell. Boom. Texans back on the board. They got their defensive lineman. They need running back, center, and guard. There's a running back right here, and Jadarian Price. And they're going to take their running back out of Notre Dame, Jadarian Price. Cleveland Browns, wide receiver. Who did they take first? They took Maui Noah and Mesador. They are now the Miami Browns. They wish. Guard and tackle. We got edge rushers galore. Chris Bosantis rated a little further down the board, but they need that interior offensive line fixed as well. They already got a tackle and an edge. Shore up that O-line. What you got, boys? Chiefs are now on the clock. Their first picks. Monster Delane, TJ Parker. What do they need? Wide receiver, edge, DB. They already got the edge and the DB. And they're sitting here staring at edges and DBs. They did lose Leo Chenal, so Jacob Rodriguez could be on the board. What's his name? Chris. Big boy Chris in the middle of the defensive line is also a guy who's getting up there in age. You don't look to replace him, but you look to get somebody who can possibly step in there. Anthony Hill Jr. at linebacker, who I absolutely positively love. But I think he's more of a – I think that they're looking more for a guy like a Matt Milano. Anthony Hill is more like Leo Chenal. They let him walk. If you look for somebody who's going to play coverage, Jacob Rodriguez would be the guy. I believe he's 229, 6'1" or something like that. 6'1", 235. So the Chiefs are going to take a guy that a lot of Bills fans love. Sorry, guys. Jacob Rodriguez. Now, going back, we have on the board the Cincinnati Bengals. And they need defensive line help. They also need edge rusher because they just lost big boy Hendrickson. So they're staring at a guy in Zion Young here at defensive end who they can pair with Shamar Stewart. They also need interior defensive line. They need linebacker. They need guard. Scrolling on the board, there's a bunch of edge. There's a bunch of defensive line. And Zion Young is one of the better players on the board. Pull him up. 6'5", 262, 22 years old. He is now, let me verify, I believe they drafted a safety first round. Sure did. Caleb Downs. Zion Young to the Bengals. Tiger goes to the Tigers. Saints are on the board. Their first overall pick, Sonny Styles. So they are in need of wide receiver, D-line. They don't need linebacker anymore. I think they could probably use a corner. Edge rusher, our boy Cam Jordan is getting up there in age. Man, there's a lot of big fat guys here. D-line is sticking out to me right now here. You know what? The Saints need so much. They're going to take the best player available here. Colton Hood, your slide ends now. Miami Dolphins have taken Jermod McCoy and Avion Terrell. They are done at corner. I believe they still have Kerry Kohu to play in the slot. There's a corner sticking right here. Let's draft the third one for the Dolphins. I'm just kidding. We're not doing that. They don't need an edge rusher. They need guard, and they need wide receiver. Who's on the board here? Wide receiver, Chris Brazzell the second is on the board. That is an interesting pick for them. They could also use a guard. So let's check out interior offensive line. Caden Rutledge sitting here. I think that they're going to go with the wide receiver in Chris Brazzell at 51. You are now a Miami Dolphin. Think about Chris Brazzell. He plays in Tennessee, and they're known for having that wide, crazy offensive alignment where Their wide receivers play way outside the hashes. They've kind of gone away from that with their new offensive coordinator, so they play in a more standard pro style wide receiver set. So, Chris Brazzell, you're now a Miami Dolphin. Congratulations on going to South Beach. The Jets, they've got an edge. They got a wide receiver. They got a quarterback. They need a corner. And, well, there's one sitting here in Brandon Cisse. I like him a lot coming out of South Carolina. I won't say Clemson because it's also in South Carolina. But they now have assessed all of their needs and at picks that fit and match the value of the player. Ravens back on the board. Center guard, linebacker. Their first pick was a guard, so they don't need a guard. They need wide receiver, center, linebacker. And I hate to do this because I love him so much, but the Bills traded away their second-round pick and don't have any ammunition to really move up. Let's see who wants to trade for this. The Bills at 91. We would have to give up so damn much to move up to that. Like if we go from 91 to 45, like we'd accept it, yeah. We'd give up a whole draft to do that. That's not right. That's not right. They need a wide receiver as well. They need a linebacker. I don't know why they need a linebacker. Well, Roquan Smith is dope. Right, Roquan Smith is dope. Excellent middle linebacker. Anthony Hill, to me, is also a middle linebacker. Jake Galde is good, but I'm not sure if he's a Mike. He's definitely a Mike. They could use wide receiver help. Chris Bell sticking out like a sore thumb. They could also use a tight end. Eli Stowers sticks out like a sore thumb. The highest rated player on the board is an edge rusher, Malachi Lawrence. And they did trade away their edge rusher, freaking is in the Commanders now. Owe. They traded away Owe. Let me see. Ravens. Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, they could use it. They could use an edge rusher for sure. So they're gonna go edge rusher Malachi Lawrence. Who's their first pick again? Guard, edge. Back on the clock are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They took Kenyon Sadiq round 1 to help out their quarterback in Baker Mayfield. They can use the edge rusher and a linebacker, and I think that R. Mason Thomas is awesome out of Oklahoma. Also, freaking Anthony Hill Jr. here. The question is, do they want the edge rusher or do they want the linebacker to replace Levante David? And I think they're going to go the linebacker to replace Levante David and Anthony Hill Jr. I hate to see you go somewhere else, Anthony Hill, but it is what it is. The Colts need wide receiver, defensive line, linebacker, and safety. And there is plenty of defensive line and edge rushers here. The defensive line, Kristen Miller, 6'4", 310. See what they say about the Colts or what their guys look like. Indianapolis Colts. Their lineup now. On defense, they have Sauce Gardner and Charvarius Wards. They're good on outside corner. Kenny Moore is there. So corner is not really something that they need. Interior defensive line and edge rusher. Although they did just draft, I think so. Round 2 draft here. They just drafted JT Tuimoloau last year. And Grover Stewart. Yeah, they can use the interior defensive line. They're going to take Kristen Miller. They run a 3-4 or 4-3, excuse me. So they're not looking for giant interior offensive linemen. They're looking for guys, 300 to 320 pounds. That's their range. On the clock right now, the Atlanta Falcons need a wide receiver, defensive lineman, linebacker, and corner. And being that they need a corner, top guy on the board right now, Chris Johnson out of San Diego State. Get your guy. Bam. Vikings need a running back, center, defensive lineman, and safety. We have an edge rusher here. We have a defensive lineman here. They took lineman, yeah. So they don't need a safety. Are there any centers around here? There are not. So you take the best defensive lineman on the board, and Lee Hunter. Value's right. There he goes. See, Dominique Orange. I've heard the name. I've heard the name Dominique Orange. I believe he plays for the University of Buffalo, doesn't he? He's a linebacker. Pull up his name, Orange. Dominique Orange. Nickname Big Citrus, American football defensive tackle for Iowa. Okay, so Iowa State. Okay. There's a linebacker that plays for the University of Buffalo. Everybody's been telling me about it. I'm forgetting his name now. Complete brain fart. All right, Detroit Lions on the board. We got them a tackle. They could probably use their running mate for what's his damn name? It starts with an H. It's not Hendrickson. Hutchinson. Yeah, they could use another edge rusher. They could use another defensive tackle. They could use a corner for sure. Terran Arnold has not been it. Joseph at safety has been kind of meh. And if I remember correctly, again, we got them a tackle. Yep, so their offensive tackle needs gone. Defensive line, linebacker. Linebacker, yeah, they have a big glaring need there. But they also do at 2 defensive line spots. So we're going to get them a very good running mate for Aiden Hutchinson in R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma, edge rusher. Bam, off the board. Panthers now on the clock. They need a wide receiver, a tight end. I believe I already got them a wide receiver, didn't I? Nope, I got them a defensive tackle. So center, tight end, wide receiver. Chris Bell is here. He's coming off an ACL tear. I don't know if they need him right away, but they also have tight end Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. He feels a need right now. We'll see what the Panthers' edge rushing situation looks like. Carolina Panthers. Lineup. Ewan Malin. When did they draft him? 2025. So he's a rookie, Princely Ewan Malin. So they're not going to give up on him that quick. On the opposite side, they have Pat Jones, who I've never heard of. So round 3 pick out of Pittsburgh. He's played okay. They could use another interior defensive lineman. And I selected for them first defensive tackle. So O-line, or excuse me, D-line, which already got. Man, they keep some linebackers too. Roseman Wallace didn't play great. Smith Wade didn't play great at corner, nickel specifically. Wide receiver here wouldn't hurt. Tight end Sanders, who they drafted 2024, Jatavion Sanders. They drafted him around 4. Right now they have a chance to get a second-round talent. Eli Stowers to the Panthers. Packers on the board. Their first pick is now. They need a linebacker. Bad. There's one sitting here staring in the face right now. They need a cornerback. There's a cornerback, D'Angelo Pons, sitting right here. They need a guard. There's not one nearby. There's also not a defensive lineman for a little while. There's a guard here at 61. They could trade back. We got linebackers, edge rushers, wide receivers here. Denver wants to get back in this action, but that's 10 picks away. I think they just go with the linebacker Jake Galday out of Cincinnati. Call it a day. Pittsburgh Steelers. They need a quarterback. They need running back. They need guard. They need tackle. Let's see what running back. They picked a tackle before already, so they need guard and running back. Mike Washington. This is a little rich for him. Guard. 61. Kalen Rutledge. I do like him out of Georgia Tech. Let's go ahead and pull the trigger. Guard. Shore up that O-line for Aaron Rodgers' return. Let's see. The Eagles on the board, on the clock. They have selected tackle, Caleb Lomu. They need wide receiver, edge, and safety. I don't know why they need a wide receiver, though. Like, they got wide receivers. Edge, I understand, right? The Eagles, they lost some players on the defensive side of the ball. They also lost linebacker in spacing on his name. He went to Alabama, I believe. No, he went to Georgia. Starts with an N. Anyways. Eagles lineup. They have Jahad Campbell. They have Zach Bonnet, linebacker. They're good there. Jalen Carter, solid. They have Uche and Smith on the outsides. Ooh, that cornerback spot looks rough. That corner looks rough. Also, they lost Blankenship. Blankenship's no longer an Eagle, as far as I know. Reed Blankenship. He's a Texan now. So they drafted Makuba last year at safety. Do we have any safeties around here? We do. AJ Halsey out of LSU. Man, oh man. Do they go safety or they go corner? Corners are more premium picks. So they're going to go D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana. Chargers. They went and got Jordan Tyson. That slide ended. They need a guard. They need a defensive lineman. And they need a safety. And the closest guy here that they could use, AJ Halsey. And, yeah. So it's going to be AJ Halsey. The board's thinning out. The Jacksonville Jaguars, tight end, defensive line, linebacker. Tight end, defensive line, linebacker. This is a potential spot to trade back. They could trade back 5 picks with the Rams. The Rams need wide receiver, tackle, linebacker. Wide receiver Chris Bell. Wide receiver Jeremy Bernard. Yeah, I don't think they would trade up for Chris Bell. Man. Who else? The Raiders. Yeah, I don't think there's really a shot. They trade. I mean, Dolphins need 75 to 56. So 90. That seems fair. Dolphins are back on the board. Draft a player. One second, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So now the Dolphins have moved up. They need wide receiver like it's nobody's business. And there's 2 guys sitting here on the board at rank 53 and 56, Chris Bell and Jeremy Bernard. And they also could use not another corner because I already drafted 2 to them. Zachariah Branch is here. tackle. There's no guards here, so they're moving up for a wide receiver here. They have picked. No, never mind. They picked Chris Brazzell, but they do need 2 wide receivers. They lost Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So do you want a guy who's going to sit for a year in Chris Bell, who I absolutely love? Or do you take Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama, 6'1", 204? Yeah. So I think the Dolphins, doubling up at corner and at wide receiver, they take Jeremy Bernard. I love Chris Bell, though, dude. I love Chris Bell. Is DJ Reader available, or did he re-sign with Detroit? I believe DJ Reader is available. Because when I looked at Detroit's roster, he was not there. I can pull it up, though. DJ Reader. He is a free agent. Yep, so he's available. He's one of those guys who's kind of waiting, for a team to finish their draft, and they still need a big fat bastard in the middle. You pick him up. My John Robert, Red Murdoch, linebacker, UB, later for Buffalo. I like him a lot. All right, 57. Chicago Bears. They have selected a safety, so they don't need a safety. They need a center and a defensive lineman. And there's nobody here. They did lose Tremaine Edmonds, though. Have they replaced Tremaine Edmonds? Chicago Bears. Roster. Position. Linebackers. They signed Devin Bush. They have TJ Edwards, Dominic Hampton, I don't know who that is, Ruben Hippolyte, DeMarco Jackson, Jack Sanborn, Nephi Sewell, Noah Sewell. Wow, they have 2 Sewells? So linebacker is not going to be something that they draft, especially with Devin Bush and then the Sewells. Well, for them, it might just be best player available, which is edge rusher Gabe Jackass, however you say his name. Let's see. So some of these linebackers might be on the ball pass rushers. I'm pretty sure they run a 4-3. That's odd. Montez Sweat and Austin Booger. Montez Sweat and Austin Booker. King Booker. Come on. Cool. Yep. For them, it's just going to be best player available, Gabe Lucas. All right. Now the Niners, they already picked an edge rusher, I'm pretty sure, Keldrick Falk. They need guard, tackle, edge. Not anymore. Safety. You got. They also need wide receiver. I don't know why that's not on their list. Right? Like the. Where is like Brandon Ayuk's basically gone, and then the other guy freaking they have Pearsall, and Jennings is likely gone unless he re-signed. What's his first freaking name? Is it Juwan Jennings or Juwan Jennings? Yep. A very awkward spelling of his name. It's a free agent, yeah. So they could go wide receiver here. And so the slide of Chris Bell ends right now. Is there a tackle? Is there a tackle or safety? There's a tackle here. Jennings Dunker. They do need to protect Brock Purdy because he's always hurt. Who's their tackles? Williams, McKivitz. They don't need a tackle. Unless McKivitz is a free agent, which I didn't hear anything about him. Nope, he's still a Niner. So yeah, they don't need a tackle. I don't know what this is about. They need a wide receiver. They need a safety, maybe a guard. They're taking the wide receiver. Boom. Chris Bell off the board. Houston Texans, running back. Center, guard, D-line. They've taken a running back and D-line. So, center, guard. And there's nobody for Miles. Their defensive backfield is nasty. Mike Washington, running back out of Arkansas. Tight end Max Clare. They probably want to trade back. They don't want to be here. So at 64, the Seattle Seahawks. 64. And we'll say 145 to move up to 59. Offer trade. Boom. Seahawks have moved up. They've taken an edge. They need a safety. There's a safety. There's not a safety. I thought I saw a safety. All right. Well, we're pivoting then. Who the hell did they try for? You know what? Tag with it, guys. I have officially bit off more than I can chew. We are going to do a Bills mock draft. You have to admit when you've bitten off more than you can chew. And I have bitten off more than I can chew. We're going Bills, baby. 7 rounds. My wife already called me to complain, so. Care for positional value, more. That for needs. Going Bills mock draft. Here we go. Buffalo Bills, start draft. We're going to pick 10. All right, so Fernando Mendoza, Arvell Reese, David Bailey off the board. Carnell Tate goes to the Tennessee Titans. Not a bad pick there. Francis Mauigoa to the Giants. Also not a bad pick there. Jackson Dart likes to move around. You want to get a big fat guy who can block for him. The Browns take a edge rusher, and then the Commanders get lucky enough to get Sonny Styles. Caleb Downs goes to the Saints. Spencer Fano to the Chiefs, and Mansour Delane, LSU, to the Bengals. Moving to the next picks. Now we are in the likely trade area for the Buffalo Bills if they were to move up. So Monroe Freeling, tackle, goes to the Dolphins. Jermon McCoy goes to the Cowboys. Jeremiah Love goes to the Rams. That would be insane. Ione goes to the Ravens. They do need interior protection. Jordan Tyson to the Buccaneers. Okay. Keldrick Falk, edge, goes to the Jets. So they got Arvell Reese and Keldrick Falk. Nice pairing. Dylan Simon goes to the Lions right before the Vikings, who then take Mekhi Lemon. The Panthers get exactly what they needed in tight end, Kenyon Sadiq. And then the Cowboys take Avion Terrell. Steelers are on the board, and there are no running backs, guards, or tackles, really. Let's see. Well, there's tackles. There's definitely tackles. You know what? I'm cool with what the board is. Let's go. Caden Proctor, Caleb. Okay. So we're sitting here with edge rusher. We can trade back and let somebody pick Ty Simpson, but then we potentially lose out on Casey Concepcion. Also, Caden McDonald's here. I really do like him. Denzel Boston is still here. So if we trade back, do we think all of our guys are going to be gone? Peter Woods, TJ Parker, and Blake Miller are going to be overlooked? Very possible. It turns out that the needs block here on PFF really meant nothing. So let's see who wants to trade up with the Bills. The Dolphins at pick 30 want to trade up with the Bills. They need a wide receiver, so if they move up, they're going Casey Concepcion all the way. Yeah, I think we're just gonna take our wide receiver, Casey Concepcion. You're a Buffalo Bill. Welcome to the team. Sandra King's like, yes, Izzy, you chose to move on. Yeah, if I do a seven round mock draft for the entire league, I was gonna be here another 3 hours, and my wife would kill me. She already called to complain. She's hungry, I think. I gotta get dinner straight, which is already made, but you know. Let's go. That was wild. I actually tried that. Thought it was going to work. It did not. I should have just done an AFC East one. That would have been more fun. An honest AFC East one. Bills on the board. Best player available is a tight end. Second best player available is a safety, Bud Clark out of TCU. Then Ziki Whitley. We have cornerbacks. Do we have any linebackers on the board here? No. None that are really worth our spot here. We have guards. So the safety, Bud Clark, is at the top of the board, along with Ziki Wheatley. Man, no linebackers? That sucks. There is Caleb Proctor here, though. Defensive lineman. Way too small. We're just going to take the best player available at a position that we need. We don't need a tight end, so Oscar Delp, you can go somewhere else. Bud Clark, safety to the Buffalo Bills. Let's rock. Come on, pick 126. Let's get something good. Cool. We are back on the board again, and quarterback Drew Aller is staring us right in the face, along with quarterback Cole Payton from North Dakota State. Tackle staring us right here, Caleb Alarms Orr. Linebacker, TCU's available. Also, guard Billy Schrouth. Linebacker Keyshawn Elliott is available. I think that we're gonna go with probably TCU linebacker Caleb Elarms, or he's one of the top choices. We have taken a wide receiver and a safety. We are in the 4th round. The guard is looking tempting to me, but so is linebacker Keyshawn Elliott, Arizona State. Interesting player. Coverage grade not so good. 6'2", 235. Caleb Elarms, or coverage grade really good. 6'2", 230. Prototypical size. Yeah. All right, we're going Caleb Elarms, or linebacker to the Buffalo Bills. No trades this draft. I'll do an AFC East draft next week probably. Just draft the division because that whole league crap was nonsense. Holy shoot. I can't believe I even tried that. Now that I've actually tried it and seeing how long it's going to take, yeah, I can't believe now I see why everybody only does a 1-round mock draft. So we got Casey Concepcion, Bud Clark, and Caleb Elarms, or we have a safety, a linebacker, and a wide receiver, all playing their final college days in the state of Texas, by the way. Let's see if we can keep that up. Wide receiver Josh Cameron, 6'1", 224. Nope, we ain't doing all that. We have that in Keon Coleman. Torian York, Desmond Claiborne, running back. The Bills are always down to draft a running back. And, we have Ty Johnson, who Josh Allen proclaims to be the best third down back in the NFL. This guy looks like he'd be a scat back type of guy. Meh. QB Taylor Green, tackle. Is there a guard here? Edge rusher Caden Curry. We haven't took one of those yet, and I think we could use an edge rusher. Caden Curry from Ohio State, pass rush grade 87. What's his size like? 6'3", 260. Pass rush grade, run defense grade. And this is round 5. Yep, I'm taking the edge rusher right here. Bam. Malik Benson, wide receiver, 6th round. Okay. I'll take a look and see if he's there. I don't know why we keep drafting players we have already signed. We already signed the safety. How many safeties do you need? So we have a bunch of safeties, but all of them are only under 1-year contracts. So none of them are safeties of the future either. Like freaking what's his name? Geno Stone is not a safety of the future. He's not been good. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has been pretty good, but he's getting up there in age. You're gonna sign him to a long-term deal? No, you're gonna no, you're not gonna sign him to a long-term deal. So my thing with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is maybe you re-sign him to one more extension, but he hasn't stuck with the team in years. So you draft a young guy to then you sit behind him for a year, learn that position, and keep it going. See, I'm good. None of them linebackers are going to do shit. They'll be lucky if they even make the team. I don't know about that. Malik Benson, wide receiver, 6th round. All right, let's see. Pick 168. Tackle, tight end, linebacker Aiden Fisher, Cade Klubnik, defensive line Nick Barrett. 322, big boy out of University of South Carolina, Gamecocks. The Bills need a big boy. Now here's a guy. His value is 177. We're at 168, so it's not really that crazy of a reach. If you even consider picking this round a reach at all. But we don't need another unstable wide receiver. We don't need another running back right now. We're good at running back. Taylor Green, quarterback at Arkansas. We don't need a quarterback. We can draft a third guy, but he's going to be on the practice squad anyway, so we might as well wait till later. J.C. Davis at tackle, not terrible to take a tackle right now, but I think we're good at tackle. Like we still have Tylen Grable. Granted, he does have concussion issues, so this right here could be a guy that we take. Cade Klubnik, I don't think we're taking him. For me, it's Nick Barrett or it's freaking tackle J.C. Davis, and the need is higher at 176. I know it's, a stone's throw in the pond, but, it is what it is. It's the 5th round. So I'm going to take the defensive tackle, Nick Barrett, 5th round. Same round we found Kyle Williams. I'm not saying this guy's Kyle Williams because Kyle Williams is much smaller than him, but you get what I'm saying. You can find good players in the 5th round. We have the first pick in the 6th round. We have some running backs, a bunch of running backs, and another safety who I do like, Michael Taft. Love Michael Taft. But if I draft a safety already in the 2nd round, I'm not doing it again now. The Bills will supplement safeties later. This is a lineman out of Navy, which means he's probably small, and he is. Let's see, wide receiver Reggie Virgil. Who's the one that you said? Malik Benson. I forgot about Chase Lunt. No lie, I forgot about him. And I keep forgetting about him. He's like our backup right tackle, and then Tylen Grable is our backup left. Or I think Grable will be the first one to go in at either spot, but Chase Lunt really does have short arms, though. I don't know if he really fit better as a tackle or a guard, but we'll see. My next pick after this one is 220, so that's a 7th rounder. And so that wide receiver you mentioned, not trade. Wide receiver. Reggie Virgil, Caden Wentgen, Malik Benson out of Oregon. Let's take a look. 6'1", 195. Let me look him up real quick. I thought I was going to be able to get through that quick, but I was wrong. Malik Benson, he is draft prospect, combine prospect. Ran a 4.37 at 189 pounds, 6 foot. So good speed there. Vertical jump was pretty poor, though, 32.5 inches. Broad jump was decent, 10. His athleticism grade was a 73 overall on NFL.com. They have him rounds 5 and 6, so this would not be an overdraft in round 6. NFL comp Will Fuller. You know what? I'll sign up for that. We traded away Keon Coleman. We have a spot open, even though I did draft a receiver. Or no, we didn't trade away Keon Coleman in this instance, but still. Return man, let's go. Yeah, one more pick. Let me pull that comment off. All right, last pick of the draft for us. Tight end, quarterback, tight end. Safeties. Michael Sturdivant. J. Michael Sturdivant, receiver. I've heard his name sticking out like something in my head. I did already take 2 receivers, so we'll pass on that. A guard, though, Michael Morris. The Bills like to throw shots at guards later on. But they did have a visit with a specific punter named Jack Stonehouse. But he's probably going to go undrafted, so even though this is a pick, I don't think I'm going to waste it. I'm going to take the guard here. Jaden Roberts, guard, Alabama. We have plenty of centers. We have like 5 dudes who can play center. We've only got like 3 dudes who can play guard. 3 or 4. We've got what? Alec Anderson. We've got Osiris Torrance. We've got the guy we just got from the Panthers. I'm terrible with names, guys, so forgive me for that. Let's see. Austin Corbett. Right, we have Austin Corbett. He can play center and guard. Lloyd Cushenberry's guard, center only. Cedric Van Granger is center only. Connor McGovern can play guard and center. We got 5 dudes who can play center, but we've only got like 3 guards, if my math is mathing. Position. We've got center guard Alec Anderson, center guard Austin Corbett, center guard Connor McGovern, center guard. Oh, so we have Van Granger as guard. So we have 4 dudes who can play guard there. And then we have, I think, 1 pure guard, 2 pure guards, Nick Broker and Osiris Torrance. Yeah. All right, so let's see what my grade was. Casey Concepcion at 26, Bud Clark, Caleb Alarms, or Caden Curry. I don't think they even graded this one. That's crazy. All right, guys. Well, that's today's mock. I tried doing the whole thing, and it was not going to happen. But I hope you guys had a good time with me. You guys take care, and I'll try and have a better show lined up for you next week. This was a ambitious attempt. You guys stay healthy, stay happy. God bless. Go Bills. Love you much. Next week will be better.